And hey, I met you. You are not cool.
But this movie is cool.
I am a golden god!
Welcome to Movies Revisited. I'm your host, Taylor James Johnson, and today we're going to be revisiting the Cameron Crowe autobiography rock and roll extravaganza, Almost Famous. This Academy Award-winning film is really something special, and it came out at a special time for me, really, when I was coming of age, when I was, getting really interested in cinema, and at that same time, I was also becoming interested in rock and roll, in music, in the history of rock and roll. So, in the year 2000, when Cameron Crowe released a movie about rock and roll, boy howdy, I was there. Even though it was, rated R and I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I still did. Somehow, because of the power of rock and roll and cinema, it gave me the strength to rent it behind my parents' back. So yeah, let's see what the great Chris Bumbray has to say about Almost Famous.
People nowadays seem to have forgotten just how good Cameron Crowe was at his peak.
You complete me. And I just had...
Shut up. Just shut up. You had me at hello.
For the writer-director, Almost Famous, which told the story of a teenage rock journalist on tour with a mid-level rock band in the 70s, was his masterpiece. For many of us, it remains one of the greatest modern films, and a film that almost 25 years later remains a cultural touchstone for a lot of us.
And you're smart enough to know that. And the day it ceases to be dumb is the day it ceases to be real. Right?
On this episode of Revisited, we take a look at Cameron Crowe's seminal film and examine how it holds up all these years later.
So unnecessary.
One of the reasons that Almost Famous was such an important film for Cameron Crowe is that it's largely autobiographical. Like Steven Spielberg's recent The Fabelmans, Cameron Crowe fictionalizes his life story somewhat, but many of the formative events that occurred in his life happened here. Just like his main character, William Miller, Cameron Crowe was indeed a teenage rock journalist for Rolling Stone magazine. Cameron Crowe began writing for community newspapers at only 13 and started a correspondence with Lester Bangs, the famous rock critic, at a young age. Lester Bangs took Crowe under his wing, publishing his articles in his very influential underground magazine, Cream, which gave him the bona fides he needed to get hired by Rolling Stone, which he did at only 15 years old.
You're William Miller?
Yep.
Oh, baby.
While the movie makes it look like editor Ben Fong Torres is shocked when he realizes William is just a teenager, Torres had actually already met Crowe in person by this point, and it should be noted that even if he was only 15, Crowe had actually already graduated high school.
And our pending graduate, William Miller, not present.
Crowe's first gig took him on the road with the notoriously hard-partying Allman Brothers Band for 3 weeks, and perhaps this is what partly influenced the story here. Years later, Greg Allman, in his book My Cross to Bear, stated that many of the events that occurred in the film actually happened in real life, even the end where Stillwater briefly claims William made up the facts to embellish his story. The Allman Brothers initially said the same thing about Crowe, but this apparently was a lot less malicious than it came across in the film, and in fact was just a practical joke that they played on him, and they quickly confirmed that his whole story, everything about it, even the bad parts, was in fact legit, paving the way for Crowe's storied career, where he still occasionally writes for Rolling Stone to this day.
We never took him seriously. Now it's serious.
I liked him as a person.
He was never a person. He was a journalist.
The movie itself centers around Patrick Fugit's William Miller, who yearns to get out from under the wing of his loving but overprotective mother.
Don't take drugs!
His love of rock and roll gives him the opportunity, especially when Phillip Seymour Hoffman's Lester Bangs takes an interest in him. He forms an attachment to an up-and-coming band called Stillwater, particularly the guitar player with mystique, Russell Hammond, but his true attachment is to their groupie, Penny Lane, who is based on several real people, including I'm With the Band author Pamela DeBar.
Don't you have any regular friends?
Famous people are just more interesting.
His mother agrees to William taking time off school to go on the road with the band, and while on tour, he comes of age, but also has his eyes open to the excesses of rock and roll and the ego that often overwhelms the music in the chase for fame. And finally, he also realizes that as a journalist, he may not be quite as chummy with the band as he thinks he is, and that, hey, he's actually not a part of the band at the end of the day, he's an observer.
This is the circus. Everybody's trying not to go home. Nobody's saying goodbye.
Patrick Fugit is wonderful as the sensitive William.
Is a song better if it really happened to you? Like Love Thing. Where did you write that? And who is it about?
When did you get so professional?
When the movie came out, many claimed that the R-rated film wasn't hard enough, that we didn't really witness the excesses of rock and roll. This can be explained by the fact that we're seeing the whole film through the eyes of William, who's young and naive, and not exactly hip to everything that's happening, but it's there in the background, and that's a theme that becomes a lot clearer if you watch Crowe's extended version of the film, which has been renamed Untitled.
Hey, you're that comedian, Leonard.
Blow me.
One thing the movie will always be remembered for is that it introduced the world to Kate Hudson, who became a star overnight playing Penny Lane. Like William, she's naive and sees herself as a muse to the band member she sleeps with, only to gradually come to the realization over the course of the film that, hey, she's being used. Some will look back at this and say that she's playing the quote-unquote manic pixie dream girl type, but this is false. She has a lot more depth than that, especially in the extended cut, and it's worth noting that in the end, Penny chooses herself rather than any of the film's leading men.
How old are we really?
17.
Me too.
Actually, I'm 16.
Me too.
One guy that didn't become a household name after the film came out, but probably should have, was Billy Cruddup. He was actually a late substitution for Brad Pitt, and he's magnetic in the film. He became a very in-demand character actor, but how did this not make him a star?
I'm telling secrets to the one guy you don't tell secrets to.
He's perfect as the cool guitar player type a guy like William would fall under the spell of, with him seemingly based in part on Greg Allman, Jimmy Page, and Glenn Frey. You know, he's that type. Going further with the Eagles metaphor, Jason Lee is also exceptional as the more egotistical lead singer of the band, who's kind of a Don Henley, Robert Plant type, I would say.
Rock and roll can save the world? The chicks are great? I sound like a dick.
Frances McDormand is also wonderful as William's mother, and indeed the movie works very much as a love letter to Crowe's own mother, with her delivering a soulful performance as a woman who, yes, is overbearing, but is also passionate in wanting her boy to pursue his dreams, and willing to allow him to make the mistakes he needs in order to grow as a man.
If you break his spirit, harm him in any way, keep him from his chosen profession, which is law, something you may not value, but I do, you will meet the voice at the other end of this telephone, and it will not be pretty.
Plus, look out for early roles for Zooey Deschanel, Anna Paquin, Jimmy Fallon, Rainn Wilson, and even Mark Maron, whose line "Lock the gates on these has become part of the theme song to his popular podcast.
Lock the gates!
Great time.
Boom, I just my pants. JustCoffee.co-op.
God, he says that all the time.
One thing that also needs to be singled out here is the soundtrack, which is packed to the gills with the creme de la creme of 70s rock classics. It's so good that one wonders how it was even possible. Part of it is the fact that Crowe has maintained excellent relationships with many of the people in the film whose music he uses, and he even got Led Zeppelin members Robert Plant and Jimmy Page to watch the film, and they liked it so much that they allowed him to use 4 songs, which was almost unheard of at the time, as Led Zeppelin was notoriously finicky about allowing any movie to use their music. Notably, they did not allow him, though, to use Stairway to Heaven, which he had intended to play in its entirety in a scene you can find on the Blu-ray, albeit with crew cueing you when to start the song on your own.
And if you ever get lonely, you just go to the record store and visit your friends.
According to legend, the
I am a golden god!
was uttered by Plant himself following a very hard night of partying, although it was Duane Allman who actually jumped off a roof into the pool in the midst of a party, according to Greg Allman.
I'm on drugs!
Despite Almost Famous's classic status, the movie was a controversial box office bomb in 2000, only earning $47 million domestically on a $60 million budget.
Please, enough!
Likely, it eventually turned a profit as it became a perennial favorite on DVD, but it was also arguably the film that Crowe peaked with, although to me his follow-up Vanilla Sky, which indeed became a cult favorite, is something of a masterpiece unto itself. Elizabethtown and Aloha would become notorious flops, and I think they're pretty bad movies. With only his Matt Damon vehicle, We Bought a Zoo, doing well in theaters, although critically it wasn't terribly well received, and I would say that it's definitely not among his best movies.
It's a bit complicated. What's so complicated about this place?
It's a zoo.
Since then, Crowe has maintained a lower profile, although he still writes for Rolling Stone, and recently produced a very well-received documentary, David Crosby, Remember My Name.
Hello, David. I'm really tempted.
Just take it one day at a time, and know that I love you.
I love you too, man.
Rumor has it, he may be plotting a comeback with a Joni Mitchell biopic, and that would definitely be worth watching.
Simon and Garfunkel is poetry.
Yes, it's poetry. It is a poetry of drugs and promiscuous sex. Honey, they're on pot.
Here's an interesting epilogue to the Almost Famous story. If you ask many movie journalists and bloggers what their favorite movies are, chances are many of them will include Almost Famous.
Are you serious?
Why is this? Part of it is due to the time that it came out in the year 2000, where I think a lot of us were kind of coming of age. For me, I was 19 years old, and I remember the film left a huge impression on me. But I think a lot of it is due to the fact that many of us have kind of had Almost Famous experiences of our own, going out on junkets, set visits, parties, and getting chummy with those people that we always idolized when we were kids.
I don't want to go to Cleveland, okay? I want to go home.
That's good, man. I like it when you yell.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our Joe Blow channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
While it may have initially hampered journalistic objectivity, many of us also came to the same conclusion that William does in the film, which is that the relationship between journalist and subject is one that ultimately is transactional. If I were assigning someone getting into the business one movie to watch, it would be this one, as indeed it's one that holds a special place in my heart, but also has a couple of important life lessons tucked away within it. Almost Famous is a classic.
What do you love about music?
To begin with, everything.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.